On my 34th birthday, everything I thought I knew about family shattered like glass. I had spent months saving for a dress that to me symbolized everything I had built with my own hands, a life of independence, of dignity, of proof that the long nights and sacrifices had not been in vain. The cream silk shimmered softly under the mirror lights that morning as I turned, studying the reflection of a woman who had worked relentlessly to claim her place in the world. For once, I wanted to feel seen. For once, I wanted my family to look at me, not at my bank account, not at the roof I provided, not at the car I bought for them, but at me. Natalie, 34 years old, a woman who had fought for everything she owned. I thought maybe, just maybe, if they saw me surrounded by friends who loved me, celebrated in a place that represented success, they might finally be proud. The evening began beautifully. My closest friends arrived first, their hugs warm, their laughter effortless. The room sparkled with champagne and golden light, and I allowed myself to hope. But as the clock pushed later and my family remained absent, a familiar heaviness settled in my chest. They arrived 45 minutes late. My mother, Patricia, in her usual faded dress, my sister Vanessa with her permanent air of irritation, and my niece Sophia, 17 and already looking bored, her phone clutched like an extension of her hand. They didn't apologize. Not really. Just excuses as always. I tried. I really tried to bridge the silence at the table. My friends asked gentle questions, tried to include them, but the walls were already built. My family didn't come to celebrate me. They came because I paid for it. Every toast from my friends tightened the air until it was Vanessa's turn. She smirked and raised her glass. To my little sister, always reaching for the stars while the rest of us stay on the ground. And Sophia didn't even bother to toast at all. The final blow came with dessert. The waiter set down a masterpiece, layers of chocolate edible flowers, golden script, wishing me a happy birthday. For the first time that night, I let myself feel proud. This was my life, the one I had carved from nothing. But when I caught Sophia whispering to Vanessa, their eyes sharp with something more than mischief, dread curdled in my stomach. Seconds later, as the sparkler fizzed and laughter circled the table, Sophia stood, her cranberry cocktail clutched like a weapon. "You want to know what I think of your fancy life?" she sneered. Before I could move, the cold liquid splashed across my chest, staining the silk with violent red streaks that dripped like blood. Gasps rippled through the restaurant, but Sophia only smirked. "Now you look as cheap as you really are." I froze, every eye in the room on me, the $3,000 dress clinging to my skin ruined. I waited for my mother's reprimand, for Vanessa to scold her daughter for some recognition of the cruelty I had just endured. But instead, my mother patted Sophia's hand gently. "She's just a teenager, Natalie. You know how they get." Vanessa was already grabbing her purse. "We told you this was too fancy. You should have done something simple." And just like that, they left me there, humiliated, dripping, my friends scrambling to gather what pieces of dignity I had left. That night, in the quiet of my apartment, I stared at the ruined dress hanging like a corpse in the bathroom and realized something irrevocable: they would never see me, never love me for who I was. To them, I was a wallet, an endless well to draw from, and when I dared to shine, they needed to drag me back down. For years, I had funded their lives. Rent cars, tuition shopping, endless emergencies that were nothing more than indulgences. My sister's sneer when she said "must be nice" echoed in my head as I scrolled through bank statements, watching tens of thousands of dollars vanish into their pockets. And now Sophia had posted a photo of me in that ruined dress with the caption, "When rich auntie needs to be taken down a peg. Sorry, not sorry." My sister had even liked the post. Something inside me snapped. The desperate hunger for their approval evaporated, replaced by a clarity I had never known. That night, I made 2 calls, the first to my credit card company, the second to my lawyer. The next morning, when Vanessa tried to buy fast food on my card and found it declined, her angry messages lit up my phone. Sophia screamed that her car had been stolen from the school parking lot. My mother wept that I was punishing them over a little spilled drink. But I stayed steady for once, not bending to guilt. I had been the family's safety net for too long, and all it had brought me was ridicule and pain. By the time they arrived at my apartment that afternoon, I had laid everything out on the dining table: bank records, credit card bills, receipts for the car, screenshots of Sophia's cruel posts. Numbers don't lie, and the totals were staggering: over $80,000 in 5 years. I watched their faces shift as the reality sank in. Their usual weapons of anger and manipulation suddenly dulled. For the first time in my life, I had the upper hand, and I wasn't going to give it back. Vanessa's face turned red as she scanned the papers, her voice rising in panic. "So what, you're just cutting us off, just like that? After everything?" She tried to flip the folder closed as though shutting it might erase the truth of those numbers. My niece sat slouched in the chair beside her, eyes darting everywhere but mine, her crossed arms a shield against the reality unfolding. My mother, always the quiet judge, looked between us with that sorrowful expression she had perfected over decades, an expression that once made me cave, apologize, and surrender. But not this time. I leaned forward, my voice calm but firm, the way it gets when I know I'm done being dismissed. "This isn't punishment. These are consequences. You can't mock me, humiliate me, and still expect me to carry you. Not anymore." I tapped the papers spread across the table. "These numbers aren't generosity anymore. They're exploitation." My mother sighed, shaking her head slowly. "Natalie, honey, you've been blessed with so much. Family helps family. You've always been the strong one." Her words cut deeper than she knew. For years, being the strong one meant being invisible. It meant my sacrifices didn't count because they were expected. It meant I could be drained dry because they assumed I would always survive it. But strength isn't an invitation to be used. "I'm done being the strong one if it means being your doormat," I said quietly, surprising even myself with the sharpness of the words. Sophia suddenly snapped upright, her teenage bravado breaking through the silence. "You're ruining my life. How am I supposed to get to dance, to school? Everyone knows me by that car. It's mine." Her voice cracked, more desperate than defiant now. I looked at her, this girl I had once held as a baby, for whom I had dreamed of futures brighter than her mother's. "That car was never yours. It was a loan, a privilege. And you lost it when you decided humiliating me was more fun than respecting me." She flushed, her eyes glassy, but her mouth twisted into a sneer. "It was just a joke, you're overreacting." "A joke is when everyone laughs," I said, my voice low and steady. "Did you see me laughing, Sophia? Did you see anyone laughing?" She shifted uncomfortably, but still said nothing. Then I turned to Vanessa. "And you encouraged it. You laughed along, you liked those cruel posts, you commented as if my humiliation was entertainment. After everything I've done for you." Vanessa's mouth opened, then closed. For once, she had no comeback. The silence was heavy, broken only by the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. I realized this wasn't about one ruined birthday. It wasn't even about a ruined dress. It was about every ignored achievement, every dismissed success, every time my mother praised Vanessa's smallest effort while undermining my hardest work. It was about years of being told I was lucky while I bled myself dry for them. It was about love that only flowed one way. Finally, my mother spoke, her voice trembling. "So, what do you want from us? An apology?" Her question landed like a slap. She still didn't understand. "I don't want an apology," I said, rising from my chair. "I want respect. I want recognition that I'm not your safety net, not your punching bag, not your scapegoat. I want to be treated like family, not like an ATM." I opened the door, a signal that the conversation was finished. Take some time to think about that. Because until something changes, the money, the car, the endless bailouts, they're over. Permanently. Vanessa glared. Sophia's eyes burned with fury, and my mother looked at me like she didn't recognize me at all. For the first time in my life, I didn't shrink under their gaze. I stood tall, the door open behind me, my decision unshakable. They left without another word, the silence of their footsteps echoing in the hallway. When the door clicked shut, I leaned against it, my body trembling, but my spirit lighter than it had ever felt. The silence of the apartment pressed in around me, not suffocating but liberating. That night, I sat by the window watching the city lights dance across Lake Michigan. My phone buzzed with messages, angry, manipulative, pleading, but I didn't answer. For once, I didn't feel guilty. For once, I chose myself. and it was intoxicating. The days after that confrontation unfurled like a ribbon, tight at first, then loosening in my hands, as I learned how to breathe without checking my phone for family emergencies. I woke before sunrise and walked the lakefront, letting the cold air rinse the heat from my face. I cooked for myself simple meals no one picked apart. I worked, I slept, I didn't apologize for either. The silence from Vanessa and my mother arrived in waves, first a flurry of calls and messages, then a cold retreat, an eerie quiet that felt like standing in a church after everyone has left, the air still ringing with what was said. Sophia, for her part, vacillated between rage and silence. I saw the posts vanish one by one, like little lights snuffed out. No apologies came with their disappearance. I didn't ask for any. At work, I could finally feel my mind without the constant tug of someone else's need. My team noticed the shift before I did. I said no to just one more favor to the colleague who always assumed my time was elastic. I left the office when the day was done, not when the guilt was done with me. I used the extra hours for something small and indulgent, a photography class. The first evening, the instructor asked us to shoot what we loved. I pointed my lens at a stranger's cupped hands, holding a paper cup at light shattered on a windshield, at my own reflection in a shop window, eyes steady, mouth unafraid. The city kept moving as it always does, but in the quiet corners of my life, the ground was shifting, exposing things buried deep. It began with a voicemail from my mother's sister, Aunt Linda, the one who used to slip me $5 bills for A's and tell me in a whisper that the world was bigger than our small town. "Honey," she said, and I could hear paper rustling in the background. "I'm going through some of your grandmother's storage boxes. There's an old bank book here, your name on the front. Natalie's education fund. Looks like it was closed years ago. I thought you should have it." Something inside me went still. I called her back immediately. She was at her kitchen table, tea steaming, the old passbook open between her palms. "It was opened when you were a toddler," she said. "Grandpa deposited every birthday check, every Christmas savings bond. He was so proud of you, said you'd be the first to go to a big university." Her voice softened. "But it was emptied your senior year of high school. Here, see your mother's signature. All of it gone." I remembered that year as a kaleidoscope of hustle scholarship essays, part-time jobs, a suitcase of thrift store sweaters for a dorm room I couldn't believe was mine. I thought the string of night shifts and cafeteria lunches were how everyone did it when they weren't lucky. My throat tightened. Do you know why I asked, though the answer was already threading itself through my chest like wire? Aunt Linda hesitated. "Your mother said Vanessa needed help. There was a situation. She never told me the details, just that the money was staying in the family," I argued. We didn't speak for a while after that. I lowered myself into a chair, as if the earth had shifted under my feet. 47,000 in transfers over the last 5 years, a $32,000 car, countless bills, emergencies just this once. And before all of that, a fund started for me by a grandfather who believed in my future, siphoned away when Vanessa stumbled, and my mother decided that my strength made me a safe place to steal from. I hadn't been lucky. I'd been farmed. I drove to Aunt Linda's the next day. The passbook was a small blue thing, the numbers stamped in tidy lines. The closing withdrawal circled in red pen. Her hands were warm when she squeezed mine. "I should have told you sooner," she said. "I thought it would only wound you. But I see now that silence is how wounds fester." I carried the passbook home like it might disappear if I blinked. I set it on the dining table next to the folders from our last confrontation, a relic laid gently among the ledgers. The story they told together made a kind of awful sense, a lifetime of choice masquerading as inevitability. My mother's mantra, "family helps family," wasn't love. It was a ledger written in my blood. The next day I got a message from Sophia, no emojis, no theatrics. They took away my solo because of attendance. Dance director said real commitment isn't just showing up when it's easy. I get it now. I'm mad at you, but I get it. I stared at the screen, the anger and tenderness in me colliding and settling into something that looked like hope. Real commitment is showing up when it's hard, I wrote back. I hope you keep showing up for yourself. 3 days later, my mother called. Her voice was careful, like stepping through glass. I made a pot roast, she said. I thought maybe you could come by Sunday. We could talk, the three of us. I could have refused. Part of me wanted to. But another part, the part that hadn't given up entirely on a different kind of family, said yes with conditions. I'll come, I told her. But I'm not coming to be cornered or guilted. I'm coming to speak and to be heard. Sunday arrived soft and overcast, the kind of day that makes you feel like the world is a held breath. The house smelled like my childhood thyme and onions and the faint powder scent of my mother's wrist. Vanessa was at the table, arms folded. Sophia hovered by the sink, hair pulled back, face scrubbed of the hard angles she wore like armor. My mother wrung a dish towel, then laid it flat, then folded it again, her eyes skittering from my face to the passbook I laid on the table between us. "What's that?" she asked, though she knew. Her voice was too bright, a match struck against damp wood. "It's my college fund," I said. "Grandpa's deposits. Closed the summer I turned 18. Your signature on the withdrawal." I did not raise my voice. I pointed as you do when teaching a child to read. I saved myself through college. I survived on aid and night shifts and pride. And you. My voice caught, then steadied. You decided the plan for my life was flexible, that I could carry it so someone else didn't have to, that I wouldn't break. Vanessa stared at the passbook as if it might jump and bite her. Sophia's mouth parted, then shut again, speechless for once. My mother pressed her fingers into her temples and said nothing. The clock in the kitchen clicked and clicked and clicked. "Say something," I whispered. "Say anything that isn't family helps family. Say you saw me even once." My mother lifted her eyes slowly, and for the first time in years, I couldn't read the expression there. It wasn't the soft reproach or the bored dismissal. It was fear. It was recognition. It was the moment before a confession breaks the air in two. She exhaled so deeply it sounded like something collapsing inside her. Her hands, always so steady when scolding or dismissing me, trembled on the table. "I thought you'd be fine," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "You were always different, stronger, smarter. Vanessa. She was fragile. She needed me. You didn't." Her words should have soothed, but instead they scorched. "Do you have any idea what it was like to hear that my whole life?" My voice cracked, despite my resolve. That my successes were luck, that my scholarships were chance, that my exhaustion was invisible because I'd be fine. Do you know what it does to a child to grow up believing her worth is conditional on being unbreakable? Vanessa flinched as though struck. Sophia looked between us wide-eyed. My mother pressed her palm flat on the passbook. "I failed you, Natalie. I failed you because I thought I was protecting your sister. I told myself you didn't need me. But the truth is I didn't want to watch her drown while you swam. So I tied weights to your ankles to keep you close." For a moment, the room was so quiet I could hear the hum of the refrigerator, the faint tick of the baseboard heater. Then Vanessa spoke, her voice defensive, but softer than I expected. "Do you think I wanted that money? Do you think I wanted to be the screw-up so badly that Mom raided your future for me? I didn't ask for it, Nat. But I didn't say no either. And I should have." I turned to her slowly. "You didn't just take the money. You kept taking year after year, knowing what it cost me. Rent, bills, cars. Every time you needed saving, I was the one paying. And you never once said thank you. You only ever said it wasn't enough." Vanessa's eyes filled, but she didn't deny it. For once, she didn't spin the blame onto someone else. "I hated you," she admitted hoarsely. "For making it. For having what I didn't. Every time you walked into a room, I saw the choices I didn't make. And instead of owning that, I made you pay for it." Sophia's voice broke the silence, tentative and small. I didn't know about this." She pointed to the passbook. "I didn't know Mom took your money for school. I thought you just had it easy." Her cheeks reddened. "That's why I hated you too. Because you made me feel like nothing I did would measure up. I thought tearing you down was the only way to level the field." Her confession sliced through me raw and unfiltered. A 17-year-old girl carrying inherited resentment like an heirloom. I wanted to rage at her, to shake her, but I saw my younger self in her eyes, hungry for approval, furious at being overlooked. You humiliated me, I said softly. You destroyed something precious because you thought I didn't bleed like you. But I bled, Sophia. That night I bled in front of strangers. She bowed her head, shoulders shaking. I know, I was wrong. I'm sorry. I don't deserve anything from you, but I don't want to hate you anymore. Tears I had held back for decades burned down my face. I stood pacing toward the window, my reflection fractured in the glass. Do you all understand what you've done to me? You took my childhood pride, my adulthood dignity, my right to celebrate without shame. You hollowed me out with every favor disguised as obligation, and I let you. I let you because I thought love meant sacrifice, but love without respect is nothing but theft. The words rang in the air, final and undeniable. Vanessa wiped her eyes with the heel of her hand. My mother looked smaller than I had ever seen her. Sophia sniffled, her voice trembling. What happens now? I turned back, my breath ragged but steady. Now nothing. No more money, no more rescues. If you want a relationship with me, it won't be bought with guilt or stolen from ledgers. It will be earned with honesty, with respect. Otherwise, I gestured to the door. Otherwise, we end it here. No one spoke. No one moved. The only sound was the slow, measured thump of my own heartbeat. For the first time in my life, they weren't holding the power I was. The silence stretched heavy as stone, until finally Vanessa pushed back her chair. For once, her voice held no venom. I don't know if I can be that person, Nat, she said, her eyes fixed on the floor. But I know I don't want to lose you completely. I don't want Sophia to grow up thinking it's okay to take and take until there's nothing left. I'll try. Her words were clumsy, but they were more than I'd ever heard from her before. Sophia wiped her face with the back of her sleeve. Her mascara smudged into shadows beneath her eyes. I'll try too, she whispered. Not because I want the car back or the money or anything, but because I don't want to be like this. I don't want you to hate me. And then my mother, Patricia, the woman who had dismissed every accolade, who had excused every cruelty, looked at me with tears shining in her eyes. You deserved better than what I gave you. I can't undo the years, Natalie. I can't give back what I stole. But I can change how I see you now. I can choose to be proud finally of the daughter who never needed saving, but still deserved to be cherished. The words broke me open. For a moment I let myself believe them. Let myself imagine a world where my family might learn to love me without conditions, but I also knew better than to cling too tightly. Change doesn't come in one tearful confession. Change is a slow grind tested in the quiet days when no one is watching. I closed the passbook gently and slid it back across the table. This isn't forgiveness, I said. Not yet. But it's a beginning. If you want me in your lives, then prove it. Show up with respect, not excuses. Choose honesty over envy. And maybe, just maybe, we'll find something worth saving. When I left that night, the air outside was sharp with the scent of rain. The clouds cracked open to reveal a strip of silver moon. I drove home with the car window down, the ruined silk dress still hanging in my closet like a blood-stained relic, the passbook tucked in my bag as both evidence and warning. Months passed. Slowly, awkwardly, my family began to shift. Sophia got a job at the mall, saving for her own car. Vanessa found steadier work and stopped asking for handouts. My mother, hesitant, stumbling, started calling to ask about my life without pivoting back to Vanessa's struggles. It wasn't perfect. It would never be perfect. But it was real, and real was better than the fragile illusion I had clung to for decades. On my 35th birthday, I didn't book a restaurant or wear a designer dress. I gathered my friends and family at my mother's house for a simple meal. No champagne towers, no golden lettering on chocolate plates, just roast chicken laughter and the quiet miracle of respect. When the cake was served, my mother raised her glass and said, her voice trembling, "To Natalie, my daughter, who taught us that love without respect isn't love at all. May we never forget the strength it takes to set someone free." I cried, not from humiliation this time, but from something purer. Relief, hope, the beginning of healing. And here's what I want to leave with you. Sometimes the greatest act of love is saying no. Sometimes the hardest thing you'll ever do is set a boundary with the people who share your blood. But those boundaries are not cruelty, they are lifelines. They teach others how to value you, and they remind you that your worth isn't measured by what you give away. If you've ever been used, dismissed, or made to feel invisible by those you love, know this: you are not alone, and you are not wrong for demanding respect. Sometimes families must break before they can be rebuilt. And sometimes the fiercest form of love is the kind that finally protects yourself. If this story touched you, please like, share, and subscribe. And tell me in the comments, have you ever had to set boundaries with someone you love? What gave you the strength to do it? Your story might be the light someone else needs tonight.